That's good. Shiny. Yep. And it's Friday, y'all. You know what the hell that means. Some of y'all, it means high school sports. Well, welcome to the show. It's Friday evening. It is the 18th of February. And I'm your boy Mo Delgado. And this is the New Norm 2.0, where we bring you into the conversation. This week, we're going to talk a little bit about this, a little bit of that. Understandably, a lot of differences have taken place in social media, where there's certain wording and certain topics that cannot be discussed. And we're hoping that the topics that we choose for this evening, like we have been every week since we started some 2 years ago, can be discussed without any kind of in-betweens. Facebook is trying to put a damper in a lot of bad press, a lot of bad information, or counterintuitive, or let's just say the not so popular information that seems to be going around with regards to vaccines via Joe Rogan. So we're going to talk a little bit about what's recently just transpired. Now, hopefully everyone's been paying attention. Hopefully your week has been well. I'm praying that everyone's been blessed and enjoyed wonderful opportunities and wonderful moments, because life is comprised of tons of moments, but it depends on what you do in those moments that makes it worthwhile. Like that, right? Yeah, boy, if you use it, you better put my name on it, like where you got it from. Anyway, let's go back to it. Let's talk about things. So, welcome to the show. We hope that we have a productive discussion about some things. I know it's really important that we stay abreast of some things. Very important things that seem to transpire in all our lives that affects each one of our lives here and there. So let me move this thing down. This box is too damn big. Let me go back to the bubble. Small, minimum. See if that works for a while. Let's try it. Anyway. So we're hoping that everyone's well. Now, let me first start by saying, recently you've heard in the news a lot of discussion about the United States encroaching on the northern Asiatic European area, specific to Ukraine. Ukraine is a nation that once was part of the Soviet Socialist Republic (USSR). That when in their fall of 94, I think that's when they fell apart. For economic reasons, they fell apart. They became independent. So, in independence, they have been staring down Big Brother, meaning Russia, for a long period of time. And right now, Russia is trying to look to see what it can do to encroach on its property, once used to be property of Ukraine. And the United States is saying, I'm not having it. Nope. We're sending troops. So recently, 8,500 troops have been recently sent up to Poland, which is on their western border of Ukraine. The eastern border of Ukraine is, as you know, Russia. So the United States is putting up their arms on one side, and NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, has placed its support through the United Allied Forces to come together, which is Lithuania, Spain, France. Spain and France are the two largest nations, but there's other three nations that I can't remember. I remember Lithuania is another one. It's two other small nations that are coming together to assist. If something that was transpiring in Ukraine, they would immediately jump into action to help to try to protect Ukraine. One of the biggest dilemmas that's created all this is Ukraine, in efforts, historically, Ukraine has always wanted to be a democratic nation. So once they became an independent nation, they vowed to go through democracy and to look to support from the West. So as it continued in developing as a nation, Russia started imploding within itself. And of course, Putin, for the past 17 years, if not longer, was recently he put in legislation to make him eligible to be the king, the emperor, the all big Yahoo, Mr. Coochie Crunch up in Russia till the year 2036. Probably the same thing Donald Trump wanted. But let's not talk about Donnie T. He's got his own issues, if you guys have heard recently. So back to what I was saying before, Russia wants to try to consume Ukraine and its efforts trying to join in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, because Russia is assuming the more people aligned on the borders of Russia that become part of NATO, then Russia will eventually be consumed also, and the existence of the Russian front will no longer be. So this paranoia and the paranoia of a lot of his supporters on that side are edging on Putin to do whatever they possibly can to push forward to make Russia great again. Isn't that interesting? So that's the dilemma that's taking place in Ukraine. A lot of people are not paying attention. Just recently, not long ago, in the Crimean Peninsula, Crimea is located right next to Ukraine. And if you've never noticed Crimea, if you ever take Google, Crimea is a beautiful location right off the peninsula. Waterfront location, has beaches. It's a resort destination. So Russia annexed Crimea. They basically said, I'm drawing a line between Crimea and the Ukrainian center mass, and says, you can't cross here. We're the big bullies. We're taking over, and did. So Crimea is now part of Russia. So the whole Central Bloc and NATO is angry and upset about that, because it shows development through the democratic process, how democratic or Western money was being able to be involved in the development of Crimea. So they put a big block to that one. So that's the issues that are developing right now. It seems to be close to saying it's inevitable for the United States to get into this Royal Rumble in that area. We're hoping that it won't, because the damage that it can develop or it can have on the world can actually wreak havoc for decades. Because this is not only a war between the Cold War, trying to relive Cold War 2.0. It's a lot of symbolic issues behind all that stuff. We're talking about the Soviet versus capitalism, East versus West, Putin versus the world. This is the dilemma that a lot of people are facing right now. So it's historically the war that never happened, the war that a lot of people wanted to, and we're talking about Uncle Joe, which is the president. He's part of the old guard the old guard here in the United States is part of the old way we doing things, and the old guard still thinks we're tough in the nation, and the way things are, they still want to show their strength. So, so right now there is it's a threat. Biden basically just said, "You step towards Ukraine, we're gonna put all our powers at B, and you're gonna feel all kinds of hell and all kinds of havoc." Let's hope it doesn't transpire, because that can entail a major world war, and it'll start first off in the cyber world. Russia is known to have a lot of brilliant engineers, hackers working on their behalf, and they're playing it all over the place. They can cause all kinds of havoc here on our side with the internet per se, or the cyber attacks that can be, that happen. Then after that, the finances, the grid, a whole lot of stuff can be attacked through the internet, and they have the will to, and they have the ability to. So we have to pay attention. Donald Trump, we just talked about him a little earlier. One of the things about Donald Trump right now is he and his children have to face the civil suit against him. Recent reports suggest Donald Trump had evaded lots of taxes. We know that. The district attorney of the Southern District of New York, says she's going after him for evading taxes, what have you. So the civil suit is more so about the broken contracts that he's had as developers throughout the world, specifically in New York City, and he has never paid his bills per se, evaded paying bills, calling bankruptcy before bills were paid. So with all these millions that were recently found, all the debtors in the past, the same way we want our chunk, the bills are due. So this is what's being faced. The outcomes of this court case could potentially weigh in on further cases in him and implicate him to the point or the furthest extent where he could be put in jail for up to 55 years for tax evasion. And Donnie T may be young at heart, but he don't look like he can hang too long in the clinker. So let's see how that develops, and we'll see if the Proud Boys do anything about this. You know, them guys who talk tough, but when everything went down, backed up, and all of a sudden singing Kumbaya. Yeah, those guys. Did you know that recent reports suggest that certain states are considered havens for white supremacists, and certain states like New Hampshire? Who the hell would think New Hampshire is a safe haven for white supremacists? I know there's tons of white people, but I never thought. I thought because they were in the North. I always thought because they were such a democratic or independent-facing nation, because they seem to be so friendly. Ben and Jerry's coming from New Hampshire. You know what I'm saying? I just didn't think that our northern, western brothers and sisters over here, where I'm in Jersey, would be involved in white supremacy. That's one of the largest. Delaware being another. Virginia and another. I was flabbergasted when I saw the top 10 states that harbor the most white supremacist organizations. I'm thinking, okay, the Deep South, we know this. Hatred still exists in Georgia and what have you. We already know Florida, them good old boys in Florida, they're still trying to hold down the Confederacy. Places like Nevada, California, places in Ohio, these individuals, these states seem to be very highly populated with individuals that like to hold on. Never heard of that, Gloria Miller. Let me put this on. Gloria Miller suggests that race pimping, the multi-trillion-dollar business of liberalism, by Kevin Jackson. Gloria, I don't know how that falls into place, but thank you for the suggestion. I'll see what I can look into. But as we continue, the discussions that are having with the dilemmas of Donald Trump seems to twinkle on. They seem to still, I guess, push on, according to one of the very few breakdowns by race. Here we go. Few breakdowns by race called from the FBI crime stats. Black on white rape is 115 times more common than the reverse. I see, said the white supremacists. Gloria Miller, I don't know why you seem to be emphasizing on race and crime. And specific crimes, specific ones that seem to be bombarded or asked not to, or being avoided by the the social networks. But the only thing I ask of you is please be very sensitive in information you share, because we're trying not to get banned, cut off, and the whole nine. And you have the freedom to speak your mind. We try to share everything that's being said or shared with us. But if it doesn't follow those guidelines, we can't necessarily support it. We want to continue to give everyone as much information as we possibly can with regards to what's available, right or wrong, left or right, what have you. But nothing that can be considered questionable, especially stats about black on white and the FBI. Isn't that interesting? Well, Ms. Glory Miller, as you're on YouTube and not Facebook, so you can't be tracked per se. And because you're on YouTube and not Facebook, the links that you have going on more than likely has been bounced around a few times. And because YouTube doesn't follow the same guidelines as Facebook, I see where you're coming. But let's move on. More discussions to be had is just recently, a lot more discussion on the Ukraine. The discussion more so about the amounts of uranium that seems to be still being mined in the greater Ukraine area. And there's a lot of interest being involved in that, but not being discussed in the public about. A company by the name of Gravitas, which is a national news or international news source, basically talked about the amount of uranium that seems to be still available in Ukraine. And one of the discussions is whoever has the rights to uranium has the ability to produce nuclear weapons to that. India, of course, is known to have a large percentage of still active nuclear weapons, and they've been pretty peaceful in their part of the world. But they've told everybody, we're not going to do away with ours as long as you don't impede on our guidelines and our parameters. We won't necessarily even consider that. If you don't step to us in a wrong way, in a violent way, we won't necessarily consider that. So moving forward, it's other things that may not be available to you in the national press that make it more tempting for this discussion. There's so much that is not being told in the national press. And I say this, as I've said this before, do not expect the news of the United States to speak negatively of the United States or negatively of anything that's been that has derived from the United States to benefit the United States. Only expect little nuggets of information here, and it really requires you to look into it a little bit more and you to get to see a wider spread of how the reality is out there. There's a lot of greedy little hands all over the world that like to use armies and flags to do their bidding and their fighting. But ultimately, it's all a corporate takeover that's all been involved. Even in Ukraine versus Russia, United States versus Russia, you have Vladimir Putin, who's become one of the wealthiest men in Asia. And in that regard, Donald Trump was trying to, I guess, play chess with him there by building the Trump Towers in Moscow. We need to look further into all that information because ultimately we're never going to get the truth just by sitting here and watching the 4-letter guys, the 3-letter guys on our cable networks. So moving forward, discussions that were recently just had here in the United States about the supply chain. Excuse me, let me take a second. Discussions have been had about the supply chain, about the way prices have gone up tremendously in our supermarkets, our retail markets, outlets, and what have you. Also gasoline, all those areas. We're not necessarily paying attention to supply chain. Supply chain is where our food is coming from, different parts of the world, where things are being shipped in, how it's being developed here and there. Some focus was taking place on international cargo ships that were coming into the United States and halted. Still, answers have still not been provided why they were halted outside of the bays, outside of the docks, because the shipping companies never had a problem. So was this created to create a chaotic need, a rampant need, so you can ramp up prices to all different things that are shipped in Um, was this a systemic manner to create chaos in the society? Was this part of the plan to make more wealthy people even wealthier? Because if you can't find things on the aisles or the shelves of your local supermarket, 90% of Americans tend to always think that Amazon is the most viable source you can get it. So Jeff Bezos and all the people he's financially supported along the time has made um, mountain loads of money, mountain loads of money. So was this created? Was this a manufactured environment? Is this a strategy to create wealth where there apparently wasn't any? And in the mask of all this that's going on, our U.S. government has seemed to put together these amazing packages for relief, where you get sent tons of money so you can spend even more money buying these supplies from individuals who seem to be making tons of money. So this question still remains: where did the supplies go? Why was there a problem of our supply chain when things coming in and out? Right now, Canada is facing a big issue because in our brothers and sisters in the north, the mask mandate has already caused a major issue. Mask and vaccine mandates that the United States, the Border Patrol there, and also the Mounties in Canada has insisted in order for them to travel back and forth over international borders, they have to be vaccinated. More recently, they have to take tests. And the truckers going through all the dilemmas they've had to, the demands upon them, they're sick and tired. And if you paid attention, Trudeau just recently enacted the Emergency Response Act, which gives him infinite power to do all kinds of things that Canada is not necessarily known for. So Canada has been a haven in perception for a lot of individuals to live there because Canadians have been peaceful, mostly. Here in the United States, we don't expect to see a lot of news about crime and violence in Canada. However, recently, through my own discoveries, Canada's kind of gangsta up in there, especially Toronto. So right now, the areas near the borders, Winnipeg, Toronto, Quebec, those areas are facing dilemmas with um, uh, endless amounts of trucks lined up, blocking their roads, blocking the major thoroughfares, causing traffic jams, causing dilemmas back and forth. And this has been going on for, I said, nearly 2 weeks that I've noticed. And it's because of the mandates. When the U.S. Border Patrol basically saying that you can't enter the United States or without being fully vaccinated, proving that you've been vaccinated, even though these truckers may have just left the borders and just overnight have to show these things and having the test within time, it becomes an arduous demand put up on truckers that already have to work beyond their agreed on parameters that before. So it makes it even tougher on them. And Canadians being able to go back and forth has become an arduous task for them governmentally. So we're going to see a shift in our supply chain, and we have to be ready for this stuff. And what I mean is, we might be seeing a lot less of the items that we were hoping to see more of come back to the aisles at these big box stores, without mentioning a few. We might not see them as even. So you might have to get creative in some of the things that you enjoy for your normal lives. Instead of using Hellman's, store-bought brands, or what have you, you might have to look and see that some of these brands that you won't be accessing also are the same brands that are made and put store names are put on there, but you won't be able to get them either. So whatever it is, just be prepared. We're going to pay attention to this supply chain because it's impacted. We saw it on the shores in Texas and California, where the docks or the shipping containers have been held on the outside. Now to the north, you have trucks being held up. It's major, but not just to be a conspiracy theorist, but there's something beyond all this, because this recent pandemic has proved that the United States has held on to amazing amounts of money, has had the ability to print and salvage and provide relief to all of its citizens, enough to withstand us for long periods of time. It's proven that wealth can still be made in a time period where so many people were poor. It's proven that technology has still fallen, although we're in the age of technology, and consistently bombarded with the need of it by seeing Apple commercials of the next upgrade of Apple and Samsung commercials every 2 days. So when you see all these things, it's things that you have to really be concerned about what's developing down the line. Um, let's let's just pay attention to what's going on and understand that anything can happen. Anything can happen. But the more that we depend on one another and stay dependable to one another, I think we can get past all this stuff. But just pay attention as we go along. Things have changed. Gas prices are starting to climb up. Travel prices. I don't know if you paid attention. I know recently I just did a little short-term query to find out what prices were like because um, I want to travel. I like to travel, so I like to enjoy myself and go all over the place. I'm not a person that has my roots deeply embedded in the soil where I live. I like to sometimes uproot them and go somewhere else and enjoy myself for the time frame and then return home. It gives me a wider perspective of how the world is and also gives me a chance to really enjoy how other people live as well. So we must take opportunities when we can. So recently I just did a query and went onto the internet and looked either Google and Kayak. These are the two sources that I went to. And what I looked at, I found these prices that were preposterous. I was bugging up because it seemed to be cheaper to go to Guatemala City in Guatemala than it is to go to New Orleans in Louisiana. I saw that it was cheaper to go to South Africa, Cape Town, South Africa, than it is to travel to London. I found it very much a more of a bargain to travel to Miami than it is to Charleston, South Carolina. The prices were crazy. They were bugged out. I saw one ticket price for round trip ticket for two people, $35,000 to go to Aruba. Uh, that's okay. Aruba, I ain't got to see you in a long time for 35K. But this is just an example of how price gouging or price is being affected by increasing prices all over the world and increasing dilemmas. So, folks, if you are in the know, if you practice extreme couponing, if you're one of these individuals who watchdogging travel networks and what have you, let's share with one another, the inside scoops here and there. Maybe we can find some trips where we can go and hang out and enjoy ourselves. I know my wife recently made a statement to us, made to us as in myself and the dog and of course my son. Um, Basically said, we've got passports and we haven't had stamps on the passport, so we got them. So she's emphasizing she wants to go internationally. So I'm like, bet, let's go. I want to go to let's go to Africa. Let's go to Zanzibar. Let's go to let's go see Egypt. Let's go to Nigeria. Let's go to the Congo, South Africa. Let's go see the plateau. Let's go see all that stuff. She's like, nah, I don't want to go that far. I want to go to an island. I said, okay, to let's go to the southern region of the Virgin Islands. We can see all that good stuff. So I was like, yeah. I said, let's go to all those things. She's like, well, maybe closer. So she's like, well, maybe we'll go to Jamaica or what have you. I'm like, all I heard in the background, wah, wah, wah. Not that Jamaica's not a nice place. Just want to take these opportunities to go further than I've ever thought I could at this time frame to really enjoy it. I want to go abroad. I want to put my foot down in Europe and travel all over the place and see how them funky people have been living all this time and seeing some of the wonderful architecture, of course, the museums, some of the relics that that we made that they benefited, so I can see it in person instead of just looking at it on TV and the news. I want to go to the Champs-Elysees. I want to go to the Eiffel Tower. I want to go in the background to see how the Thames is. I want to travel on the Thames and go see Lithuanian castles. I want to go through Transylvania. I want to go to see all those things. Europe. I want to go to the bulls in Spain and watch these dumbass people run from the bulls. I'm gonna be rooting on the bulls, of course, as I always do. I'm always rooting the bulls because I feel bad for some of these bulls. Shelly, you're the inside scoop, Shelly. I know you know how to get in all over the place. Italy, Greece, definitely. There's some places that are like places to go. Oh, Sardinia was a location not long ago where prices seemed to have like really de-escalated. People were looking for opportunities to go see Sardinia, and these are beautiful regions in the Greco-Roman, Greater Italian scope of the Mediterranean. Beautiful, beautiful locations, man. And not long ago, sometimes I spend times watching videos of people travel, and just to get my mind set on what I'm seeing. So if by chance I get lucky enough and end up there, I won't be so surprised. I know where I've seen this before. I know where I'm going. I know where this turn is. Ooh, let me go check out this boutique. There's a restaurant here. Those type of things. Oh, there's a long walk up or there's a long walk down. It's narrow here. All those different factors that play in traveling. So it's extremely important. If you ever get a chance to share information, y'all. If you find something that is extremely rare, let's jump on it, because not everyone has taken the opportunity to become these flight watchdogs. Some people are really, really good at it, and others aren't as good. And then some of us don't necessarily have the time. Some of us just, we hoard information. That's another thing about us people, human beings. We hoard good information that could be shared, and all of us can really benefit from it. So it's only a few people that seem to do this and share. And I try to be one of them, because whatever we do here in the new norm, we use it as a vehicle for everyone else's enrichment also. It's not just for ourselves, it's just for the enrichment of the world. So, if you see something, we hear something, we always share it. But Italy and Greece, that would be the bomb. Greece, I've speaking some of my Greek friends, this one guy, he's like a brother to me. We always said this is my brother who's from Greece. My man Gustus. We talk about Greece sometimes, and I always ask from the people's perspective, how the economy is, how hard it is, what's the concern, is this and that. Because there's poverty all over the world. It's just people then deal with poverty differently. And then there's resentment, the realistic aspects of resentment when you come in on vacation into a nation that's struggling and there's a lot of poor people. Do you become a target? Do you become more of a target of resentment? Will they treat you badly? Should you even consider coming in and spending a couple hundred, if not a couple $1,000s in their town as an outsider? Is this going to be a mutual benefit, not only for the residents or the merchants and businesses that you spend there, but for you as your experience? So, we have to consider where we go around the world. Just recently, I don't know if people have been paying attention. One of the locations that Americans like to travel is the beautiful island of Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico had just recently faced a lot of protests. And this is mostly protests because of Code 22. This is one of the things I've spoken to about just recently. Code 22 is a financial opportunity given to wealthy Americans who buy property in Puerto Rico, usually waterside property around the beaches. The dilemma is in them not being able to pay taxes, or them given a provision where they don't have to pay taxes. They now sit there on these beautiful parcels that once were populated by people who live or come from Puerto Rico, and now they have to face these new residents now trying to create private beaches where legislation and all kinds of documentation just that all beaches are public. So, you got these rude boys coming from America flaunting their wealth, saying, I just bought $1 million property. This should be my beach. And the wonderful people of Puerto Rico says, oh, for real? And calling their cousins. And all of a sudden, a party erupts in Puerto Rico on the beach as a form of rebellion or protest. And the party continues. And this has been going on for no less than 3 to 4 weeks now in different parts of Puerto Rico, different parts of the beaches. Basically, it's civil unrest done so in a Puerto Rican way. It's a party, food, great times. Legislation seems to be popping up. Legal support saying that they've done everything within their realms of the powers that's created all these things. So that's just an example of how tourism is being affected by, I guess, some of the hard times during this epidemic, or tourism worldwide. A lot of it could be racism, economic poverty, things like this. All that it is what it is. So just pay attention as we're traveling, how things are affected. Let me see. Shelly says, sounds familiar to a point, the private beaches. So you guys facing that same thing over there? on the island that you live? Is there private beach? I would imagine because Bermuda's not that big. Bermuda's not as big as some islands, but big enough. But I would imagine it's probably a problem over there. So, but before I continue, welcome to the show, my brother. How are you?
What's going on, Mo?
Evening.
What's going on? What's going on, my good brother?
How are you, man?
Yeah, not bad, man.
Good, good, good. I don't know if you
I'm
saw
making down
earlier.
out of 15 cents. You know the deal.
Yeah, I hear you.
Mhm.
Earlier, I got hit by one of these internet trolls. Somebody with a profile picture of a black woman named Gloria Miller, and you could tell it was a white supremacist trying to pass information on that was pushing it, race pimping and the sexuality and black on whites. I said, this guy, he's lonely ass people in these internet positions. So
Well, the internet is a rough place to be these days. You know that.
exactly.
The internet is a rough place to be, man. That's all I gotta say.
Wow.
That's why they call it the World Wide Web because there's a
Exactly.
web of lies. You know what I'm saying? There's a web of lies.
And a lot of bugs hanging out trying to eat one another. Yep.
A web of lies. The thing about it is because a lot of these things are self-explanatory within the name, but we just don't seem to see it. So we have to look a little closer. I
There we
mentioned
go.
that last week with the Patriots. Remember? Remember the
Yeah.
Patriots?
I was about to say, we're about to have a segment called Adrian Says to remind people.
You know what I'm saying?
Doesn't hurt.
It's within the name, but people just don't seem to find it.
Exactly. But it's quite interesting how things are just smack dab in your face sometimes, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
Let me change that background. But I was just talking to Shelly. Shelly's a good friend of mine from college. She's in
Okay.
Bermuda right now, and we were talking about some of the similarities that she's facing in Bermuda that Puerto Rico is facing about tourism and how gentrification is taking place, trying to ostracize or exclude tourism or access to the beaches. She just recently said, sounds familiar to a point in Bermuda, what I was talking about in Puerto Rico in her situation, where she was saying that you can only access some beaches by boat, and they don't consider that trespassing, which is oddly it's one of those aspects that I'm finding here. Like I was having a problem a few summers here in Atlantic City because of the beaches being assumed to be property of the property owners that were across the street from the beach. And I was trying to remind them, like so many other places, the beach belongs to the people and not to a person who bought the property. You
Correct.
can't buy a beach. It
Correct.
don't work like that. But
They have the same problem down in Florida also.
yeah,
Certain parts of Florida, these guys say this is public beach. They say no, this is all private because it belongs to the condominium complex here. You're like no. And so I mean, you're gonna have that rift wherever you go with that.
hmm yeah. Everybody wants to own a beach that they don't really usually go to. Most of the
Yeah,
people that complains about owning the beach only wants to sit there and look at the water. They never do shit on the beach. Never do nothing for the beach. Never really truly enjoy the benefits of the beach. They don't go in the
they never
water. They
even
don't
clean up
swim.
the beach.
That's it. So
They never
it's
even
like
clean up the beach, Mo. Come on,
you know that. It's
come
amazing
on.
how much garbage comes
Yeah,
in from.
come on. You know, you know what
And,
I would say to them? Hey, life's a beach anyway.
watch out now. They couldn't have drove my
Life's a beach anyway.
phone. He's here all week, y'all. Just make sure you come by and check out a show. But it's amazing, man. But I'm just thinking. I said, if you are one of these individuals working in real estate, and if you are interested in selling somebody these waterside properties, why don't you add this to the sale of the property? Have a big ass picture of the beach, and say, take this and enjoy this. Don't encroach on the beach outside of this property because this is the only beach that you're going to be able to own. Is this beach in this picture? Enjoy this beach, and you won't have to worry about getting treated like a beach outside.
Yeah, no comments here.
It's quite interesting. But how's your week been, man?
Hey, life above, anytime above ground is a good day for me. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
When you get up in age, you have to start learning how to maintain. That's the stage I'm in right now, maintaining life.
Trust me, I have. I'm growing to understand my position. you know,
Interesting.
mentally we're all thinking we're young. You know what I mean? We're all still young at heart. We're young in mind. It's just that we have to sometimes um, acquiesce to the realities of life. You know what I'm saying? You can't run as fast as you did in the past. As men, you can't go to blows with somebody much younger and assume that you ain't going to catch a blow that might hurt for real.
Mhm.
You know what I
Your
mean?
body don't mend the same way.
Right, exactly. Honeydew, that honeydew list can't be as long as it used to because honey can't do everything they used to.
Nah,
You know?
you can talk a good talk though.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
Anybody can talk a good talk. You know what I'm saying?
right. And there's some people who have managed to done pretty well to maintain their bodies, and they can do just as much, or at least close to it, or more than myself. I know, but they can still stumble and fall and hurt their asses really
Jack
quickly.
LaLanne. You remember him?
Yeah, he
Jack
was like 90
LaLanne.
years old riding bikes. I was like, my man.
You remember that guy? He
Oh,
was swimming and pull a boat at the same time.
all I kept thinking was, and you know what? This is something that's been on my mind for a couple of days now. The emphasis of fitness seems to be really a big thing to people who are like running out of time per se. You know, as you get older, the whole emphasis on fitness gets big. Like, you know, you got to stay in shape. You got to do
Well,
this.
people try to find the fountain of youth, and they believe that they can find it within the exercise world.
Uh huh.
So they try to do as many and much exercise in the whole 9 yards. But sometimes, your body will rebel against you. Your body's like, look, we're not as young as you have to take life in stride. There's nothing
Exactly.
wrong with exercising. There's nothing wrong with working
No,
out. There's nothing wrong with eating right. But
exactly.
you have to take everything in moderation because that's how life was meant to be lived.
You know, oddly enough, I've seen so many individuals, or we've all seen, where people who appear to be so physically fit succumb to some illness, have heart attacks while they're jogging, diseases, and eat up their
Yeah.
systems. People
But the
passing
thing
away
about
really,
it,
really.
some people think that they have something to prove.
Yeah,
As we get older, you should have already proved what you need to prove.
yeah.
That's
You
why I look at it.
should
You
already gain
shouldn't have
weight.
nothing else to freaking prove when you get older because you've already proven it.
Yeah.
Period.
You know what's funny though when you're speaking about that. You know how many times I see these sugar daddies trying to roll around and trying to get these young girls, and it's still the same thing. It's who the
You
hell
know
are
the
you
thing
trying to
about
prove?
it, as long as there's young girls, are gonna be sugar daddies, and that's just the way the world is gonna turn. You know what I'm saying? That's just
Oh
the
yeah,
bottom
man.
line. You see them come on Facebook or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, miss me with that nonsense because they start off one way and then they try to end up in another way in your pockets. I'm like, no, miss me with that nonsense. You
It's
know what
just
I'm saying? I'll say,
as
look, I'm not a banker. You know what I'm saying? So don't
mhm,
bank on it.
yeah. Plus, I mean, plus there's a situation where sometimes we look at fitness in different ways. Like we're so busy in physical fitness, but never concerned about our financial fitness. So busy on our physical fitness, sometimes leaning on their financial fitness that never even thought about your spiritual, your mental fitness. So, there's an equal balance that as you get older, you could be having, you should be having. As you get older, you start seeing those important things. Like
Hmm.
I've noticed people who are in law enforcement, once they retire from law enforcement, a lot of individuals go into church and they become they become more active in the church and even become
Right.
clergy later on in their lives. And this is somewhat, it seems to bring balance in their lives,
Yeah,
you know?
because when you're in law enforcement, you see the worst of the worst. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
So then, when you retire and stuff, you want some form of peace and tranquility to show that the world isn't all that bad based on what you've seen through your job. So a lot of these guys, that's what happened. I've seen that many times over.
Yeah.
People who were in the military, they come out of the military, they're deacons, and like that in the churches.
Yeah.
And when you speak to any of them, they're like, look, if you've seen some of the things that I've seen back in the day, it's mind blowing, jaw
Absolutely.
dropping, the whole 9 yards. So it brings
Absolutely.
them closer to Christ, and that from that aspect.
Absolutely.
And after
Or
all,
whatever,
yeah,
or
we're only
whatever.
human beings. We're only
Mhm.
human beings, and that's it.
Yeah. And it's just, you see it in certain age brackets. Like, this is just an observation, but I see people who are 30 years old really going through their critical moments of self assessment at 30 ish. Because you no longer are the youth that you used to be. And you're starting to recognize that now you're looking towards the old that you make fun of all the time. You make fun of the people that are old, and you start to
You know,
slide into that realm.
I spoke to this friend of mine in shop right not long ago, and I said to her, she's like, Adrian, she was telling me happy birthday, but the fact of the matter is, I'm like, look, you remember many years ago when you was growing up, and he says, how old is your mom or your dad? Oh, they're like 50 years old. Now you are your mom and your dad. You know what I'm saying? You are now them. And
Right.
that's the thing about it.
Right.
I says, yeah, now they're calling us mom and dad and grandmother and grandfather and the whole 9 yards. We are
Oh,
now them.
wait, did I just hear something about a birthday?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It
Oh, okay. I was
was
about to
in
say, I
August.
thought did
Yeah,
we just
it was
celebrate
in
that that
August.
long ago?
Yeah, it was in
Okay.
August. But you know
Oh,
what
okay.
I'm saying?
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I know you was gonna catch that. You're very savvy when it comes to the earlobes.
I
So
tried.
am I. you know.
I'm not
Yeah,
sharp as
but
you
like
are
you said,
sometimes.
we are our parents now.
Yeah.
That's what we are.
Yep. Yep.
We are
And
our parents.
some of us, gracefully fall into those steps, those levels, because we're becoming elders. As
Yeah,
we've
we
gotten
are.
older,
We are
we're
elders.
we're the elders that
I,
we were at one point in
yeah, I
time.
told
Looking
my
at.
sister the same thing. I says,
Mhm.
if you add 30 years, to your daughter's life, and she's like, 20, she'll be 50. But if you add 30 years to your life, you're way over there. There's my girl Vanessa, huh?
Hey, Vanessa, how are you? Hoping you well.
Yeah. Yeah, you add another 30 years to your life,
Hmm.
you're way up there. You'll be in your 80s,
Right.
if you're going to still be around. So you have to
Yeah.
take that 30 year and you add it to their life and then take a look at your life and see, and
Right.
it'll give you a real proper perspective of where you are.
Yeah. I mean, in reality, if you look at it, everyone deals with generational development differently. You know what I mean? Because some generations have to develop a lot sooner than others.
Correct.
Um, Depends on hardship, because I've seen in my observation, people who've gone through financial hardship or life hardship, they mature faster. So, and
Yes,
that
they do.
becomes part of the practice that someone has to develop, and that is,
Correct.
we know that African Americans here in America have gone through so much struggle that we've had to mature
Correct.
much sooner than, say, Caucasians. And we've seen generational differences in Asian Americans, Native Americans, Latinos, what have you. So there's some fluctuality. Uh, it fluctuates a little bit, but the truth of the matter is that there's a level of generational maturity that we all go through. And I think 30 is around that area where, you no longer have your membership card of being young.
Correct.
You could be younger adult, but you're no longer young at 30. You're
when,
considered either older or old.
when you're in your 30s, you're like, the world is yours, the world is
Yeah,
yours. And then when you get to 50s, like, damn, what happened to the
yeah, no,
world?
where did it go?
what happened to the world?
Let me check my warranty.
So exactly, you know what I'm saying? No, you just trying to stay alive. That's it.
Exactly.
You just
Exactly.
trying to
And
stay
the older
alive.
you
Because I know a lot of friends of mine
get, yeah,
did not make it to my age, and I thank God I'm still above ground.
absolutely. Absolutely.
It's real strange, and
Absolutely.
it's sad,
I
very
just saw,
sad.
I was just blessed to see a friend of mine who, she reminded me of a really, I guess, fun time in my life that was about a good 20 years ago. Um, so I'm 52 now, so 32. It may have been 25 years ago. And that really fun time, she reminds me, she's like, good to see you and what have you. And I'm seeing how she's aged and I know how I age. And I'm like, wow, time does go when
Yeah,
you're not paying attention.
I
It
remember.
goes.
I have a friend of mine from Trinidad. His name is Junior. He's on my Facebook also,
Hmm.
right? And I met this guy when I was 7 years old, and we're still friends up to this day. 7 years old, down
Yep.
in Trinidad. Check that out. He was
Yep.
8, I was 7.
Yep.
And both of us are still, alive and kicking. And it's a blessing just to see that.
Yeah. I'll say this is one of the beautiful benefits of social media, being able to connect with people that you would normally probably see.
Correct.
Like I just recently connected with somebody who I grew up with, who I was in my young, I'd say from the age of 3 till 12. We were in the same neighborhood, so we knew each other, and then apparently connected. So it's good to see people make,
It
and
is.
that's the one good thing I know that.
Social media, has its positives. That's the
Yeah,
bottom line.
yeah, I hear you. Vanessa said, "Let's show me how to save some money." I just,
I
I didn't know.
already, What,
Huh?
what is she talking about? I've interacted with her on so many different occasions. It's unreal. And I
Vanessa,
know
he's
she's
calling you out.
really,
He's calling you out. He's letting you know. He's calling you out.
yeah.
But I was just having a conversation with my mom just a little earlier today. I went to her home to see how she's doing. It's good to see her every once in a while, right? So I was just talking to her, and I was just talking about how my intentions are to migrate to another part of the United States within the next 2 years, to get up, move, haul my ass and all my things somewhere else, to enjoy a different type of life, maybe hit a reset, right? So, in talking to her, one of the things she's always said for years, you can go buy a house and do this. She always says this, and I kept thinking, in her time, that was probably the largest or the biggest accomplishment that somebody can have, which is to buy a house. And I
Right.
truly believe that. I mean, still to this day, owning property is a major accomplishment. But I think the disposition has changed because things are so much more expensive nowadays. And you have to rely on so many different avenues that are attached to owning a house that it makes it even harder for the average person to invest into buying a house.
But not only that, to even enjoy the house because you spend the
Yeah,
majority of the time trying to maintain that mortgage. And trust me,
yeah,
being a specialty, and having dealing in foreclosures and stuff,
yeah,
I've seen the struggles.
yep,
Everything starts off peachy keen. You bought the house, you got the keys, everybody's celebrating the whole 9 yards. This is, with the car, the first 6 months you're paying on the interest. And they
yep,
say on a house, the first 6 years you're paying on the interest on that house. You
exactly.
haven't even break into, the entire investment. You're only paying on the interest the first 6 years.
So,
So
and
when a lot of people are celebrating, it's all fine and dandy, and that's a major accomplishment, and I
yeah,
congratulate. But the part about it is maintaining it after that point.
and to
So
have
you
some
could get
quality
it.
of life.
It's like buying a car. You could get a car, but can you
Yeah,
maintain the car, from years to come?
right.
And that's it. A lot of the real estate agents and the brokers and stuff, they moved on to someone else.
Hmm.
They've moved on to someone else.
So even that's cyclical. If you think about it, when you're younger, you're thinking, I'm going to get a big ass house, I'm going to get brand new car, all these things that you would like as a flashy new thing. As you get older, you're thinking, I don't need a new car, I can get a used car. It'll be the same thing. Why? Because it'll get you to
Correct.
point A to point Z or point B. The cost is different. Cost is better. It's cheaper. You can find what you wanted way back when. Different things. Just like a house. You don't necessarily have to newly built house. You can find yourself a house that's been on the market for a long time, even a one that has been foreclosed on or bank owned. So there's opportunities change with time, and what your outlooks may be different. Like at one point in time, we were wanting this big 10-bedroom house. Okay, cool. You got the 10-bedroom house. All of a sudden, your family starts to decline in size. Then you don't need 10 bedrooms. It's more for you to handle. You can't handle it. So what are you going to do?
Well,
Downgrade.
I've seen a lot of people who've had families in the whole 9 yards, and the kids all grown up, move on to college, move away the whole, and the parents are like, okay, just my wife and I, all the kids are gone. This one guy was telling me, like, Adrian, what the hell do I need, like a 4 bedroom house for? And when it's just my wife and I, we have no kids. They're all grown adults. They have their own families to deal with. I said, well, the first thing you want to do is to start downsizing from this point on.
Yeah. Vanessa asks, is AC a good place to buy?
Tell her
Honestly,
talk to me. Tell her talk to me tomorrow. Give me a call. Pick up the phone and make that call. I'll
you
tell
heard that,
her
right?
everything she needs to know.
Yeah.
And
Check it out.
I know she's hearing me out.
Yeah. I guess it really depends on you, but he'll give you more
Yeah,
details on the market, give you some
yeah.
insight
I'll give
here
her
and there.
my perspective. Because we talk on a regular basis. Just sometimes she just don't call her brother.
I'll,
And that's all there
I'll
is
say,
to it. Pick up
you
the
just
phone.
don't call, brother. See,
Yeah,
you heard
exactly.
that, right? Calling
It's
you on
just
your carpet,
yeah,
Vanessa.
yeah. You know,
Calling you on that carpet. You need to call him. Okay.
yeah.
I hope
But
you
like
reach out to him.
yeah, but the thing about it is, you have to remember, Mo, a lot of people, you mentioned something that's very important. You mentioned something about reset. Okay,
Hmm.
very, very important. Because if you think about a reset, you have to look at pre COVID and post COVID. Because everybody is saying that we're coming out to the end of this COVID stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. So
Just
you
don't
don't
answer.
answer the phone.
Because she dials the wrong number sometimes. I told her about that phone of hers.
The
You
Apple
know,
products.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I told her about that phone of hers.
Uh huh.
Yeah, but like I said, pre-COVID and post-COVID. because pre-COVID things weren't as expensive as it is right now.
Mhm.
Post-COVID, you're looking at this. Everybody's like, we're coming out of this pandemic, you see, the rules are starting to relax. The mayor of New York was on television yesterday, telling all of the executives and for the big Fortune 500 companies to get all of their employees back into the office. The reason why, because New York needs to keep generating all that money for that office space. That's the reason why he's telling
Hell
them,
yeah.
yeah, because if they're not in the office and stuff, like, look, we need these people back into the building. Get all of these people. It reminds me of that the Eddie Murphy Trading Places at the very end, where he said, "Turn those machines back on. Turn
Right.
them on." Remember that
Right.
part?
Right. Right.
That's what he sounded like to me.
Right.
Like, turn those damn machines back on. Everybody back to work.
Right.
But a lot of companies also are saying, wait, we're not going to push this. We might be onto something here. If we have people working from home, in a remote setting,
Mhm.
schools are doing the same thing also.
Yeah.
And so post COVID, things are way more expensive than it was before. Try buying yourself a nice steak at Stone Shop and you tell me what's going to happen. You
Yo,
know?
let me tell you,
Yeah,
I
what are you
know
telling me?
2 weeks ago, I went to the supermarket. I was looking for a nice, and I don't go for like T-bone steaks tonight because I know the price. Plus, if you know cuts of meat, you can always find the cut of meats within the other stuff. So I'm buying a chuck, buying a big chuck. It was about something that I know comfortably. I'll pay $26 for a nice healthy chunk that I can use for two seatings for two people. Man, it was like $48. I said, for what? I can go buy for twice the amount. I can buy a whole damn cow for this. I was bugging. I'm like, oh my god, the prices have went up so it was crazy. First
Yeah,
off, you
that's
couldn't,
right.
and I said this earlier about the supply chain. First off, it's really hard for you to find a lot of products in the supermarkets. Like now, some days you get lucky, you'll see beef products, but you won't see the amount of chicken that you've seen in recently. You won't see turkey. Ham comes sparingly, depends on which day of the week or whatever situation. And steaks, certain ones you'll find the junk meat, which is ground beef, and like this small prime and everything. You'll find that, and you'll find that every third Thursday. And in between, you might find a prime steak, prime rib, something like that, whole roast. You might get lucky, but the prices are doubled, and in some instances triple. And if you don't know how to shop, you're gonna get hit. You're
Oh,
gonna get hit.
you'll get bankrupt in the supermarket.
Oh my god, you're gonna get hit. I mean,
Yeah.
I normally go into Philadelphia whenever I go and take my son for treatment in Philadelphia for his condition. So we go to the Italian market, which is known to have butchers, and usually they compete in prices. They do a pretty good job of getting some good prices. Depends on how much you get, and we get enough for a month when we go there. So this past visit, I was able to get short rib, boneless short rib, at a pretty decent price. It was only about, I would say, about $7.59 a pound, which last time before I went there, it was nearly $11 a pound. It was catching me off guard. I was like, wow. So I got lucky on it, and the guy was basically talking about it. He says the supply chain is getting hit,
Yeah.
especially now with these truckers running into the situation where now they
Yeah.
want to travel. Meat will not necessarily be available as often as was before. So,
Oh,
you know,
and another one, avocado. Avocado now is going to go
avocado,
through the freaking roof now. That's another one
avocado.
also. There
Yeah,
goes the guacamole, Jack.
yeah, that commercial avocados from Mexico. It won't be
Yeah,
coming on
no, it's
TV
not
no time soon.
Mexico. Oh, not Mexico. No. The cartel is like, no, no, no.
Shit, right now the supply chain. If you can grow in your backyard, enjoy it.
That's it.
Um, don't expect things to get shifted. You like to live that high acidity life and getting things shipped from the Mediterranean. Got to have cold pressed olive oil from Greece and so on and so forth. Unless you're ready to pay some exorbitant prices, you ain't getting none of that shit. You better get happy with the Pleasantville olive
Man,
oil.
everything, like I said, this post COVID is inflation like crazy running amok.
Yep.
And it happened after the Great Depression also. Same
Yeah.
thing.
Yep.
It happened.
Yep.
A lot of people, the food lines were very long, the soup lines. It took
Yes.
a while for this country to get back on track, and history
Absolutely.
repeat itself.
Absolutely. And again, it's one of those type of things we can endure and we can survive past it.
But you know something? But we need to learn from the past to live for the future and don't be a slave to no computer. That's what
Yep.
Grandmaster Flash said. And that's so important. Reason being, because after the Great Depression, Roosevelt started putting things into place. The New Deal. And Biden's like the Build Back Better deal. But the thing about it is the infrastructure of this country is crazy because a lot of the bridges are falling apart. The roads are falling apart. Look at Philadelphia. One of the roads was flooded a few days ago, like crazy, because one of the underground pipes ruptured. They have ways to fix these things, but they need the money in order to do so. Look at the bridge that collapsed in Pennsylvania. It's another, and it's going to happen all around this country, one after the other.
But isn't that the acoustic? Isn't that the all the monies that was supposed to come in from the last bill, the infrastructure bill, the hundreds of trillions of dollars are supposed to trickle on?
Yeah, but Manchin is still holding out. Manchin is still holding out. Not to mention one of the congressmen were actually sick. I heard it on on a report this morning that they couldn't have the full amount of votes to pass the bill. So they're trying to pass a downgraded version of the bill, because Manchin is like, look, we don't need to add all of this money, because it's going to have inflation running them up. And Sinema doing the same thing again.
And it's the same shit. And it really upsets me because the Democrats have the ability right now, and they have the numbers to suggest that a lot of stuff can happen. But you got some people with their ideological ways and things like this can't look past personal issues here and there to get things done. And this is, again, it's demonstrative. We don't learn from our past. We don't learn from the mistakes in our past.
Yeah.
And we can't mobilize people in large droves like this. It just shows America still got a lot of growing up to do. Infrastructure is necessary.
Oh, hell yeah. You don't want to go to the Benjamin Franklin Bridge and end up in the water, Jack.
Who are you telling? You'd have to go around like
I'm telling you. Look what happened in San Francisco when the earthquake and that bridge pancake and all the people in the middle. Yeah. When these people going across the bridge and the bridge freaking collapsed and you end up in the water? Oh, not tonight, my brother.
Oh, no.
That's a horrible way to die in fear.
I could probably list the top 10 ways I don't want to die, but ultimately all of them mean the same thing. I don't want to die, so I'm not trying to.
Yeah, well, we ain't gonna live forever. I mean, nobody wants to die, but we can't live forever. Anything that lives will die. That's the way life is.
Yes, I'm trying to make sure I get to the last bits of my warranty before it expires.
But that's the thing about it. I tell a lot of people, you just don't know how you're gonna go.
Yeah.
That's
and if there's a chance, but here's the question: if there was something to be able to tell you how you were going to die and when you would die,
would you want to hear it?
Would you want to know?
I don't think so.
Would you want to know?
Exactly.
Would you want to know?
That's the reason why God said you walk by faith and not by sight, because sight will tell you exactly when you're going to go, if you really want to know. But then you don't really want to know.
I don't know. I look at it this way. Sometimes it can, to some, maybe it can be that boost of enthusiasm. Say, well, shit, I only got 18 months left to live. It's time to turn up the burners, and then get a whole bunch of stuff accomplished you could have got accomplished before.
I'm going to put that through the test right about now. Look what's happening to Ukraine, because right now they're anticipating that Russia is going to try to invade Ukraine, and those people are living in fear because they're looking they're staring at death's door, because a lot of those bombing is going to hit buildings where people are actually living. And people are going to die. Nobody wins when a war breaks out. Everybody loses. That's just the bottom line. Nobody wins when a war breaks out.
No, we don't. But we're talking about Crimea. The first thing that's going to happen is a cyber attack. And that cyber attack is going to eliminate all the things that we depend on here in the United States, which is electric grid, sewerage, all the transportation, everything.
But oil is going to go through the roof. Trust and believe.
But you know what? The United States has its reserves, and to a certain extent, we can manage if America really turned it on.
Correct.
But it will. We're gonna see.
But a lot of people are not aware, because in the United States, the same way how when they were talking about, let's ban the French fry because of the people in France and the French and all that kind of stuff. Even though French fries came from America, but nobody told them that. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. But in the United States, there's a company that actually, it doesn't produces, but it actually services, oil, to the American public. Do you know what company is that?
Mm-hmm.
What company?
Services?
Yeah, actually like a gas station. It's Russian owned.
Oh yeah. It was opposite of the other one I said that was in Pleasantville. There was a Russian-owned company.
You want me to tell you which one is this? It's right on the Black Horse Pike across from Wawa. It's just Russian owned.
Yeah.
The one that I'm telling you about is Luke Oil.
Luke
right. Oil is Russian owned.
Right.
You know, and that's the reason why Putin, he wants to invade, but he really doesn't want to, because they're going to try to seize all of his assets. You know, and that's what he's worried about. And a lot of the rich Russian, you know, oligarchs and those guys are going to lose out because they're going to freeze all of their assets around the world. And that's what, you know, Putin has a serious yacht,
Just talking about that.
The yacht was in Australia, I believe, and he's like, get that freaking thing right back up here because we don't want it to be seized if we decide to go into war with these guys, because the West is going to seize it.
Talking about that, the guy who owns Luke Oil, he's one of those Russian oligarchs over there. Yeah. The second wealthiest person on that side of the planet owns this boat that is bigger than most U.S. cities. It's probably the largest boat ever made. There's tops on. It's so damn big it can't fit in any damn canal. That's how big it is.
Well, Jeff Bezos has a freaking yacht that is so huge. It needs a huge boat on the side of the yacht. And it says once they build this damn thing, they forgot to measure the bridge, because where they build it, they can't get it out of there because the bridge doesn't open up.
That's what I'm saying.
Took inventory of that.
This oligarch, his boat is so big that it can't fit down canals. It's so big that it has 3 heliports. It's so big that it not only has, you know how it usually has escape boats on the side. It has like yachts, not little dinghies. It has yachts attached to it. That's how big this shit is. You know, it's so big. It's just like I said. You can see it at the horizon. That's how huge it is. It's a city, a floating city, and this guy just owns it, and it's out on the water all the time, and he seldom on it. He just has it. Yeah,
and that's the thing about it, because these boys have so many assets around the world. If a war was to break out, all of those assets would be seized automatically by the freaking UN and all of the countries.
I'm like, realistically speaking, who the hell wants to own a boat that damn big? Who?
Him.
Him. Yeah. Him and the person that sold it to
him and Jeff Bezos.
It's the same circle of 1%ers, man. The UAE, the Princess UAE, they're all trying to say who's is bigger. I'm like, you fucking idiots.
Yeah.
Buying all these super giant boats for nothing.
Do you remember a show from back in the 80s? It was called Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember. With Robin Leach. Yep.
With Robin Leach, exactly. You know what I'm saying? That was crazy. They just give you a glimpse of some of those guys. Imagine where they stand today.
Opulence. Well, most of them, just recently, I think they did a mini docuseries on Robin Leach. And he says, as he followed up on any individuals, he said a lot of those people died early from opulence, overuse, and stuff like this. Some of them got attacked, killed. They were just targeted, whatever. And then some people just spent their money just doing stupid shit. When you buy nothing but solid gold toilets and having paper that's rarer than anything else on the planet, come on, man, to wipe your ass with? Come on.
But the people that would be stealing from you is the people that would be working for you.
Of course.
And you won't even know it. Because you're not omnipotent. You can't see any and everything that's happening around you, despite you having all that money.
Yeah, stupid. I mean, I would like to be wealthy, but not so much where it becomes a weapon against me. You know, let me have enough wealth where I can share with others, bless myself, bless my family, and become a vehicle for everyone else that around me. I can help more and more people.
Exactly, and that's what it should be about. Because if you got it from the community and the people around you, you should be willing to give it back once you got it.
Absolutely. Because you got to take care of the people who take care of you, man.
That's the bottom line. If not, you will expire like you know, the guy. I can't remember. He died in the Bahamas. Howard Hughes. He died in a room in darkness in the Bahamas.
That weirdo. Oh, yeah.
Very wealthy guy.
Shit. He was the wealthiest person. Built the biggest airplane on the planet.
Yeah.
Died with long nails by himself, scared to come out. Sociopath.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Right in a hotel room in the Bahamas.
Anyway, people are bugging. But wealth is wealth.
It is.
My mother jokes with me. She says, you know, that God doesn't allow you to be wealthy because, you know, you spend your money on everyone else. I said, shit. I had fun trying to prove him wrong, though.
And that's a good one. But like I told you, if you want to know what God thinks of money, like I've said before, look at some of the people He gave it to. Some of
Yeah,
them are very insecure. They're very foolish. They're freaking crazy like hell. Do nonsense. You just look at them. You know,
yeah.
whether it's a football player, you know, a basketball player, you name it. You know, a singer, a dancer. Eventually, they go cuckoo.
Speaking of cuckoo, did you see recently Kanye West was videotaped wearing a full body? It's a cover for people who hunt to dress like leaves and bushes and stuff like this when they go hunting. His ass was caught on videotape in front of Kim Kardashian's house near the trash can because he wanted to look to really peep into Kim Kardashian and see if they get a chance to see her and her new boyfriend out in public. So he wanted to jump on it. I said, yo, if this guy is not mad crazy, that's that Kardashian wizardry and shit. They're a bunch of witches and threw it on as a dumbass.
But you tell me. Let's be for real. Does anything that Kanye West does actually surprises you? No.
No.
I mean, you just expect any kind. This says he had one of those Grammy awards and he was urinating inside of it. You know what I'm saying?
I
Does
would be,
anything that this man does? No, it doesn't. Nothing surprised me. Some people, you'll be like, oh, wow, I'm shocked about. But some people is like, oh, well, that's just the way he is.
my wife gets like that. She gets surprised when she hears about people and like her, we went off. We were watching the Super Bowl, right? The halftime show, and yesterday we went and looked at the older ones because I still believe Prince's halftime show was the best ever, and then Michael Jackson was close to it, and Bruno Mars and other stuff was way when Dr. Dre and all this stuff came on. It didn't come close to showing. So we were talking about that, and we
I
were
think I
talking.
like the one with Prince, if you ask me.
I love that.
Because when Prince actually did the Super Bowl, it started raining. And he just got out there and he was singing Purple Rain while it was actually literally raining on
He
stage.
he actually told the producers, any way you can make it rain harder. I was like, damn. It was amazing to me. It was, wow.
Prince really, you know, went all the way in on that one.
He
I
gave
like
me
that.
one of the best shows ever on ever. But I've seen quite a few good ones, and my wife and I were just talking about that. How when it comes to perception wise, what do you think the best is, and who do you think this is? And we were just sitting there just watching over and over again. We watched Michael Jackson's version, which was a good production for what it was. You know, to be Michael Jackson. I saw Katy Perry, nice production. I loved Coldplay. You know, that whole idea with the love and world love and all that stuff with Coldplay was pretty cool. I still say one of the best showmen of our modern day is Bruno Mars. He gives a great show. Beyonce, good music. It's just, you know, there's some good shows. This one we just saw with the hip hop artist was a good homage paid to Dr. Dre and his legacy of good music, but it wasn't in comparison to the other ones in the past. I'm not even close. But it was good to see hip hop be
Yeah.
in the center stage.
Well, you know, it seems like, you know, it's for the time era. You know, each one of those was for its time.
Yeah.
And that's just the way I look at it. You know, Prince happened during his time while he was alive. Michael Jackson during his time, during his reign, and now you have Dr. Dre. You know, so everybody's getting their shot at being on stage at the Super Bowl.
You know what's crazy though? I was going back to say how we were watching the Super Bowl, the past shows, and when it was Shakira and J Lo, the production work they did that. Every time I see something of the past, I look at it like with a new perspective. It really gives me some encouragement. Really look at things. Like I really love the way they did a lot of first. It was the first time you hear Spanish-speaking production on broadcast TV in the largest stage in the world at that time. It was a lot of Caribbean love, and you saw the roots with Shakira paying homage to her Lebanese roots using some of the things they did and some of the verbiage and song, and the African roots and some of the beats that were going on with the salsa and all that stuff. And then paying homage, bringing attention to the children in the stages, in the cages, you know, bringing Puerto Rico at that time was going through a major unrest and they were celebrating the flag. It was just really good to see people who have the opportunity to speak for those who don't have the dais to speak, for them to come out. And, you know, just seeing all this stuff. And you're hearing the feedback now, like a lot of negative feedback. I'm not going to speak ill about the Super Bowl halftime show because it was a good show. It just doesn't compare to other shows, but it was a good show. It was a lot of great music.
Agreed.
But with all the feedback about being disgusting on stuff, white Americans who want to see country music go back to the rain are reining in. A couple 100,000 people signing petitions to ban this, and it's a damn shame. But we're probably going to see next Super Bowl we'll have a country music artist, and it's going to be another somebody.
Yeah, Golf Brooks or one of those guys. Who knows?
Yeah. You're gonna see some of that. I don't know how much excitement they'll be able to bring, but I bet that's coming.
Yeah. Check this out. I was watching the news early tonight, and your buddy DT actually lost another case. It has to move forward. 112 pages. Donald Trump. The situation here that's happening to him is you heard about the accounting firm just up and quit on him.
I said that earlier. I was talking about that.
Yeah, they just up and quit on, and that's any business owner's nightmare is to have your accounting firm that you've had for over a decade just up and just left you high and dry and said, hey, the documents that we passed over to the Attorney General, Letitia James, those documents cannot be relied upon. So we won't depend too heavily on it. Those are some crushing words by itself.
Hell yeah. If the people who are supposed to hide the real details and the numbers are no longer there, nobody hide it, then you got a lot that.
Yeah, they don't want to be, they don't want to be even facing a deposition or inquiry or any of that stuff. So they're like, yo,
Right.
So his whole world is being turned upside down, and he's running to different courts. Because Letitia James is coming, she has an axe to grind, and it has his name on it. And now they said they have to depose his kids also, Don Jr. and Ivanka. Both of them are going to have to undergo some depositions. How are all of their stories going to gel? This is so important. How are their stories going to gel?
All of them were involved in every aspect. This is another situation. Anytime the TV show came about, all of the Trump boys and Ivanka, everybody's involved in all the businesses. When he became president, some of them had to take over the businesses. So all the antics that they've done behind everything, they have to answer to.
Yeah, they have to bring to bear.
It's just the great American lie has been always to believe that once you get into a high level of power like that, you can become higher than the law, and whatever you do can be protected and hidden. And that could probably exist. That type of fairy tale story happens in Russia. But in democracy in the United States, and the way the levels of government that we are, it is too far from being the truth than ever before. Because you have enough people that are paying attention. We're going to keep pushing. Well,
his mantra was, if you tell a lie enough times, people are going to start believing you. And that was his frame of mind. If you lie enough times, people will start believing you. But that's what a con man does best. He will feed you that over and over until your brain turns to mush, and then you start believing the nonsense.
That's the American story, though. Sad to say, I don't know of any other realm or any other territory on the planet of Earth that seems to cultivate in lies as much as we have. One of the biggest ones is that eventually it'll get better. Another one is turn the other cheek. Go. What is it? Be bigger, turn the other cheek. We've been. It's the lie that always.
Here goes the best one. Equal justice under law.
Exactly.
Why are they overturning all of these cases with DNA findings that a lot of these people were not? The prosecutor hid a lot of the evidence. So this person ended up going to jail for like 27, 30, 40 years, and they come to find that this person is totally innocent. And when they get out, they can't get any money paid or anything like that. They have to go their merry old way, but the majority of their life is gone. Their parents passed away, brothers, sister, the whole 9 yards. Yeah. Equal justice under law. That's the reason why Lady Liberty has a blindfold on.
She's supposed to be blind, right?
Exactly.
Not what the truth is. She's been held from looking at the real details.
She's still holding the scale as far as we know,
Yeah, she's holding that book for a reason. Somebody trying to steal it.
Yeah, that book is like the Bible and stuff, and praying that everything goes right. Because look at that situation, what happened in North Jersey with those two kids that was fighting in the mall.
Oh, that's a big dilemma. Now with the cops, because the videotapes it with the
Speak on
cops.
it. Speak on it.
That's more than one situation. That's actually the third altercation dealing with police officers and the youth in the past 15 days. The other two, one was in South Carolina, and this is outside of a shopping strip. And this has had to do with altercations with two young teens in vehicles or what have you. Another one was in Florida. Another one is community parties that came about that we saw not long ago, where a 14-year-old girl was not only beat up and dragged, they had called the canines on. But this situation that happened in Bridgewater, I think it's Bridgewater, New Jersey, in a shopping mall, where a fight took place, and apparently the rent-a-cops on inside security and police officers were called upon it, and they steamrolled it into a point where the last thing that you saw was an officer take hand a 14-year-old girl, slammed her on the floor on the ground.
It was a boy. It was a 14-year-old boy.
There was
a boy.
I saw
two
fighting. Yeah, I saw two, and then one. I think
two boys that was fighting. One of them white, one of them black.
Right.
You know, the white guy was a bully that was picking on the young black guy's, friend, and the young black guy jumped in, and says, you don't be, bullying, so then he slapped his hand away because he was in his face, and that's when the fight broke out between the two. Right. So then what happened? The cops came and they grabbed the young black guy and then slammed him to the floor. The female cop picked up the white guy and sat him down on the couch and said, "Just sit right here. We'll be right back."
Tenderly.
While both of them jumped on this kid, 14 years old. Well, Benjamin Crump is on this case now. He's the modern day Johnny Cochran, just to let you know. Benjamin Crump will be there every single step of the way if you have to deal with racism. He is there. It's like Gloria Allred. She's another one that will be there if it comes down to any, lawsuit with women, like what she went up against R. Kelly and some of these other guys. So Benjamin Crump is on this one big time. I saw him yesterday.
We will see how this develops, because that part of New Jersey is predominantly Caucasian, upper crust, their financial situation. This is up near Princeton, in that general area. So, these people have money, and the justice system. Remember, New Jersey has more police officers per square mile than any other state in the United States.
I tell a lot of people, if you're running from the law, or you want to hide from the law, don't come to Jersey. Don't come to Jersey. Stay away, because you drive from here to Pleasantville. You're going through different districts, municipalities, and townships. That's what you're doing. You're passing through. Try driving 40, 322, or even 30. You're passing through all of these different places. You won't even know. You can go from Astika into Galloway, into probably Mayor's Landing, and you don't even know it just by driving.
Yeah, we probably have the most finicky damn city lines ever. One of the biggest things that still stir up, like, why the hell does it exist, is the fact that when you leave Atlantic City, you drive through West Atlantic City. That's considered Egg Harbor Township. Correct. That's not even attached to Egg Harbor Township. There's no attachment to Egg Harbor Township at all, but it's considered Egg Harbor Township. But then you have to go through Pleasantville.
A cop from Egg Harbor Township, I was talking to him one day, and he was saying the same exact thing that you're saying, but he said at one time, all of Atlantic City and all of this area was nothing but Egg Harbor Township, but then it was broken into pieces. And that was my understanding based on what he told me.
Egg Harbor Township was not created until later on. You had places like Scoville. You had places like Cardiff.
It was like Egg Harbor. It may have been Egg Harbor, but not. Right. It wasn't a township back then.
It wasn't a township.
Because they still control the waterway on the Black Oak Pike.
It was the spill of the creation of the townships. Galloway being one of the largest ones, and another one is Egg Harbor Township. They wanted to create mega areas, and they've engulfed these small little municipalities. And they're saying that this is for shared services, to create shared this and that. And they kept the same municipalities. They have their own mayor still, but the police stations are set up to connect. But again, when it comes to jurisdiction, if anyone's ever looked at the map, you have Atlantic City. Which, matter of fact, I will pull up a map because it's just idiotic how things are.
Let's go to the
map. It's so idiotic how things are.
Don't use a Sharpie on that map either, all right?
Nah. No, I can't do
Sharpies are forbidden to be used on any maps after Trump.
that. Instead of, dry erase, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's like, this is where the hurricane is going to go, and I'm going to make sure it's going to get there.
Exactly. Let me see if I can get this map of Atlantic County. Let me get the best map.
Because those bad boys patrol the waterway on West Atlantic City over there.
Uh-huh.
But then you have the fire department on that side that says West Atlantic City.
And another crazy thing about that is because the waterways are the realm of the state.
But Egg Harbor Township Police Department patrol that waterway, which is right behind Pleasantville there.
Mm-hmm. Let's see if I can get it close enough. This is hard. Let me see if I can do it. I'm gonna get the map.
And then you have Verona Avenue that's running through Pleasantville. So you're passing through, you're on Verona Avenue, which you go a little further down, then it becomes the Black Horse Pike. I think it cuts off once it gets to Pleasantville, there it becomes Verona Avenue.
I don't know if you can see the cursor. You'll see how the island sets up here. This is Pleasantville, but it's not showing it. Right under the sign here, you can see the cursor. This is what we're talking about. Egg Harbor Township is here between Atlantic City and Pleasantville. But look, Egg Harbor Township, it's way over here. It's not even connected. You have virtually two municipalities, Pleasantville and Northfield, and Linwood and Summers Point. All these are barriers in between Atlantic City and Egg Harbor Township. But this section right in between is considered Egg Harbor Township. In addition to, is all these little islands, part of the waterway, are considered Egg Harbor Township. Now, tell me if this wasn't a chess move trying to ensure that Egg Harbor Township has dominance over thoroughfares going in and out of this area.
But just look at the size of it.
Galloway being another one. This is the larger one.
Yeah, Galloway's another one up on the other side.
Yep. And then we got Hamilton Township, which is crazy because there is three Hamilton Townships in New Jersey.
Yeah, I believe so. I think it's Hamilton and Hamilton.
No, Hamilton.
Yeah,
Hamilton.
they're different Hamilton.
Yeah, Hamilton is the city. But Hamilton Township, there's three, if I'm not mistaken, three, if not just two. But there's more than one Hamilton Township. There's one near Essex, which is way up there in North Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's one closer to Trenton, which is Central Jersey. And then we have, like if they weren't running, for some odd reason, someone loved Hamilton so much, it was like, we're going to name the township more than once. Just to remind you, how big we are. A bunch of dumbass. Just reminds how Jersey is stupid. But this is, again, part of the idiotic nonsense that South Jersey, or the Jersey-esque attitudes of drawing lines of territory. It's just stupid. The more you look at it, the more it just doesn't make sense. And no one's talking about it.
Yeah, because Murphy was talking about it one time before. I think during his, his last tenure, he was talking about how you have North Jersey, then they have South Jersey, then you have Central Jersey, and all of these different parts of Jersey. Like, we only have one Jersey, and that's the way it should be. Instead of breaking this down with North and South, because remember, years ago, North Jersey wanted to separate themselves from South Jersey. I don't know if you remember that.
Stupid.
That was like back in the 80s or so.
It's always the nonsense how people always want to separate themselves.
Yeah. Until casino gambling came in, and they're like, no, we don't want to do that anymore because money was funneling from South Jersey up North Jersey, and still is today.
It's the same nonsense. North Jersey always has a desire to be the New York. That's what North Jersey is. Everyone desires to be New York because you're closer to New York, so everyone wants to be New York City or part of the New York realm. Anyone close to Philadelphia, everybody thinks they're Philadelphia. South Jersey, a major
exactly.
Everyone's Philly.
All the Philly teams, South Jersey. All of the New York teams, North Jersey.
It's like the identity of New Jersey seems to be how close it can look like somewhere else. Stupid. Instead of really enjoying New Jersey for its
they kept the Jersey Devils, but they got rid of the New Jersey Nets.
Yeah.
So now it's the Brooklyn Nets.
Well, because we don't support it. Again, that's another thing. We don't
True.
support our own.
Yeah.
Baseball teams, basketball
Yeah.
teams. We don't support the hockey teams. New Jersey Devil has done pretty good, but again, it's because it's hockey. The more opportunities you have hockey for people who enjoy hockey to go drink and act the hell up, and, you know, the way things are going usually in a hockey rink, that's where you're going to see it. But when it comes to other sports, basketball, come on, man. New Jersey Nets used to do really well in you know, the highest ranking time frame before Brooklyn took over as far as New Jersey is concerned. I remember going to several games in North Jersey, the Meadowlands, and you just didn't see the type of support. And football, the Giants play in New Jersey.
Exactly.
You know, the Giants play in New Jersey. They don't play in their own football field in New York. They
Exactly. In the Meadowlands. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and you don't see the support there. People just
It reminds me like the LA Lakers, because remember the LA Lakers, they call it the LA, you know, it's now Los Angeles Lakers, but the Lakers were up in the Great Lakes states, and they moved from there to Los Angeles, giving them the Los Angeles Lakers.
Oh, in the beginning.
Exactly.
Right. In their 60s, 60 years past. That's when it was, right? The original locations or something. My son and
it was up in the Great Lakes, like Minnesota, up that way.
Yeah, I think it was Minnesota. Yeah, I think it was. That's when the Lakers were.
It was the Lakers, but then when they moved to Los Angeles, then it said Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah.
But
if you're talking about the origins of teams, we have major baseball teams that were once Negro League teams here in New Jersey, specifically Atlantic City. The Atlantic City Black Crackers were actually a feed team into Philadelphia Phillies, into the Denmark Primes. I think that was called the Denmark Primes, the Bismarck Primes, which is a CBA Continental Baseball League, which got consumed by the National Baseball League later on. But we had a lot of teams in South Jersey and New Jersey, period. They were feeder teams for all the major leagues and some of the teams that still exist now today, and we still have it. Which, as a segue, I'd like to celebrate some of our local people who have some of our friends and friends of cousins and so on and so forth are now celebrating because in their family they have NFL champions. I think it was the Demby family is one of their kids is a Rams, part of the LA Rams, and now they're celebrating winning the Super Bowl, which is awesome. You know, for all those who have children who have celebrated now in professional sports and become champions, kudos to you. Congratulations. We're very proud of you. I don't want to say the wrong name, so I'm not going to identify who. I just remember some people in some instances. I've never had the chance of meeting these children, these young people, these young champions. But I celebrate their victory for them and their families.
You know what would be really nice, Mo, to have, you know, an Atlantic City Hall of Fame, where you have all the prominent people that came up out of this area, you know, within one structure under one roof, you know, and that's what's needed around here, you know, because if you was to go back in time, you see a lot of people. Because I remember Randy had this on online recently about one of the Cash, Rosalind Cash, I believe. You know, who was, you know, in the movie theater and the whole 9 yards. They have a lot of people that came up from Atlantic City High School and grew up in Atlantic City that moved on and became very well known, famous, and popular, the whole 9 yards. But a lot of people in the community just don't know who they are now. But there are a lot of people out there. There's no doubt about that.
Well, it would be nice, but it shows, it demonstrates, it's demonstrative of society today. We don't tend to shine or bring attention to people closer to us.
Because if you was to do something like that, and some of the schools and the young kids actually go to this particular structure that's actually Hall of Famers and people who are well known became famous coming up from Atlantic City and Atlantic County area, it bestows pride upon these kids to do the same thing, to follow in different people's footsteps, to do just that down the road. It inspires them to be great. That's what I meant to say.
I know we've had an Atlantic City Museum that highlighted some of our, I guess, the closest to a Hall of Fame type thing. Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, Mayor Langford's wife Ninell was one of the curators of this museum at one time when it was on the pier.
Correct, Garden Pier. I saw that.
Right.
I went inside of there. I remember seeing those things.
Yeah.
Correct.
I know this because I was actually blessed by being featured as being the first Puerto Rican of African descent, per se, to be honored, whatever the situation, highlighted as being an elected official. So it was pretty fly. Thank you again for those that nominated me.
And that's what I'm saying. It needs to have a building or structure somewhere within Atlantic for Atlantic County in general. The people that's come up out of this area, they end up playing Major League Basketball, football, boxing, the whole 9 yards. You know, I even have a family member that probably would end up being inside of there, if you know what I mean, but I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, I mean, he's already in one Hall of Fame, so why not?
Exactly. You know?
Yep.
So it would only be logical.
It would make sense, definitely, right? But again, we're talking about in a city that don't necessarily always make sense. In the trek of making a dollar, we don't always make sense.
Well, you know, the thing about it, hopefully it goes, you know, my words doesn't fall on definite ears, you know, you feel me?
Right.
Somebody take up the words and run with it.
Right, from your mouth to God's ears. Maybe there's a chance. Maybe we'll see.
Exactly.
It'd be nice to highlight, because we've had a lot of great individuals, not only people who become celebrities, but the one thing
look at my guy, look at the Willie Glass. You know, he played for, you know, Los Angeles Lakers. Look at Ralph Townley. And these are just some of these guys that come off the top, you know. I went to school with these guys. I remember when, you know, when Willie was, you know, a freshman in high school, you know, the whole 9 yards.
Right. And they took the stretch.
I remember when one of the big games with Camden versus Atlantic City. I was there. I'm like, yo, you know, the way how he actually dribbled the ball in those dudes, I was like, yo, man.
Yeah,
you know,
that was a major, that was a major undertaking at one time.
And even enough, when we went to Chelsea, we were in the same class. So we both went to Chelsea together and went to high school and were still in the same homeroom going straight on through. Because he's not the only one. I know Davine Johnson, Valeria Jones, and all of these guys, we're all celebrities in our own right coming up out of Atlantic City High School.
Right. Well, there's a lot of greatness.
Huh?
There's definitely no question. There's a lot of greatness that's come
from
the families and people that call Atlantic City home.
Yeah.
It's just, it takes an effort for us to acknowledge these individuals and to do so respectively. I know the present mayor has attempted to highlight African Americans in African history, Black History Month.
Hey, I'll be joining you next week.
Oh, okay. Wait, what's next week? I don't even know.
Yeah, I have an interview at your place over there.
Oh, okay.
Yes, cool. They called me up and they said that they want me over there now.
Okay, cool.
I'll be dealing over there.
Well, we will see you over there. Sorry, Mo.
Side conversations. See what I'm saying? Side conversations. So back to what we were saying, last week we were talking about the greatness by one individual who should have been considered for the Department of Recreation, which is Frank Turner.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, but there is a lot of individuals like that because it shows some love and pride and appreciation for the people who've actually, taken those steps, those hardships, and try to sacrifice to get to that level. They might not be at that point in time, but they've made it attainable to kids who don't see these things.
Yeah,
made it more realistic to people.
They need something to They need something to hold on to that dream. To dream the impossible dream.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about it, because when you have poverty and blight all around you, and you see all bad things happening, the first thing you want to do is when you get older is to get the hell out of here. And that's what we're seeing. A mad exodus of people leaving this area and going elsewhere, becoming famous and well known. It says, hey, I used to go to Atlantic City High School back in the day, but I got the hell out of Atlantic City. So, because you have nothing to hold on to.
One of the things that I've said it's a borderline illness that we have in our town is we really lean towards celebrity big time. We seem to always emphasize celebrity, like people who are well known in entertainment, well known in sports. And to us, that seems to be a pinnacle of achievement that they suggest is the template of achievement. Like if you're not to that level, then you haven't achieved. Where we've had individuals who've achieved positions like teachers, that's an achievement. Firemen, That's an achievement. Police chief, an achievement.
Correct.
We've had individuals who achieved executive positions in corporate America,
Correct.
big lawyers in corporate
Mhm.
America, and big in law. We've had judges. We've had individuals who have endeavored and gotten to major levels of achievement in their fields, but they never got the attention that somebody
Right.
who
They never got the recognition. They never got the
Exactly.
recognition. They're just deserved. They never got the
Right.
due reward.
Right. And one of the vehicles that I was trying to put in place was called Atlantic City's Hometown Heroes. What we do is find individuals that we find exceptional human beings. It could be the smallest action and deed that they do that impacted people most by getting out of their homes and sweeping, and not only in front of the homes, but in front of all the homes in their neighborhood, never asking for anything in return, just doing this, inspiring other kids to do it, and all of a sudden the entire block is taken care of, or they celebrate and they create one thing out of another. It just spans and spawns into something greater. These are the things that create greatness, and we have to be supportive of greatness within. Stop looking for celebrities as being the epitome template for our children.
Correct.
When you have great templates in our communities that they can follow, and they get to that certain level, then they can find someone else to endeavor and guide them to the next level. But we have to make those connections. Like you said, there's a Hall of Fame and stuff like that. It creates connections.
Correct, exactly. It gives the younger people, the younger generation, something to believe in, something to hold on to, and something to look forward to achieve. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Right. I mean, we've had a lot of great people, people who were readily displayed in the Renaissance at Club Harlem as dancers.
Correct.
We've had individuals who were musicians. We've had individuals who played major specific roles. Like, to say, Avery was the last name Johnson, who played, yes, Avery, something like that. Anyway, he played the father of, or his uncle of, the Fresh Prince.
Correct.
And if people
know exactly what you're talking about.
Right. And people don't recognize he was from Atlantic City. He played a significant role because he played a pinnacle position as a strong black man who got into a position of justice and adopted or helped his nephew coming from a really risky neighborhood have a better chance at life, and became the father figure that he didn't have. That was an immense position. And in the psyche of America, people weren't paying attention. And this man was great. He didn't get his flowers. You know what I mean? So it's just individuals like that that leave a point of reference that you be like, wow. Did you know that MLK spent a lot of his summers here on the beach? Was part of the family per se, was cookouts and what have you, was part of this. That we know that people weren't paying attention to that stuff. They didn't know that Louis Armstrong started in his early years sometimes to try to perform here on the beaches, and got one of the most acclaimed horns he was able to play later on, and got inspired from here, went back to Chicago and became Satchmo, known to be a Satchmo at that level. Did you know too much about the fact that you had Sammy Davis Jr., mom was of Puerto Rican descent, worked in the hotels here, who was able to get him in the 500 Club back in the day, who was predominantly white, was part of the whole Rat Pack because of his influences involved in the Rat Pack here in Atlantic City, who later on became great at what he was? Did you know? I mean, if you didn't know...
Well, that's the thing. Everything that you're saying is not part of a history book.
Yep.
It's not part of a history book. Where are you going to find all these things in the history book? You're not. And that's the reason why it would be so imperative to actually have some type of, a museum or something of that nature.
Yep.
To actually highlight and accentuate all of the positive things coming up out of this area.
Yep.
Look at another one, Suzette Charles. She's from this area also.
Yeah,
Miss America from back in the day that actually took over Vanessa Williams' place.
Yeah,
she's from here. Yep. Yeah. She's a local.
Yep. Greater South Jersey area. You have athletes that have endeavored and done really well in national. In the track and field, you had some greats coming out of Pleasantville, the track team of Pleasantville.
Oh yeah, big
soccer players coming out of Atlantic City High School who already got into the Major League Soccer. I mean, you have a lot of people who have gotten to great extents coming from a small town like ours.
Mm-hmm.
And you think, if every city in America and outside did that for their own, how much pride do these children could possibly have?
And the thing about it, Mo, and that's the thing about it, because they need something to cling to.
Yeah.
And if they don't have something to cling on to, and especially if it's positive,
Yeah.
you know, everybody's talking about the crime in the streets and stuff. This is a good way to accentuate the positive and turn the dynamics around, turn things around.
Right.
You know, to accentuate everything and show the positive things that came up out of this area, that they could be one day be right here also.
Right. I'm wondering, Shelly's still on, and we appreciate Shelly. Shelly, being from Bermuda, is that something that you see in the beautiful island country of Bermuda? Do you have that type of avenue for some of the youth growing up in Bermuda? Are there highlights or like a Hall of Fame? Or is there some sort of celebratory vehicle for people to pay attention to some of the great people that come from Bermuda? I don't know if it has it, but I think it's a great vehicle for all of us, especially people.
It is. I mean, look, I came from the islands myself, my whole entire family.
Yes.
You know, and what we have was never given to us on a silver platter. Trust me. Trust me, it was not given to us on a silver platter. You know, we have to go out and make that platter and put something on that platter, rather than to be handed a silver platter. You know, but all of us have done very well for ourselves, and that's what it's all about. You know, my philosophy has always been hard work pays and getting straight up A's, you know, and that's what I've always said.
I like that one. That's different. Okay. That's a new one for the books. Yeah. Hard work pays more than straight A's. I like that.
No, hard work pays and getting straight up A's. That's what it's about. But hard work pays and getting straight up A's in school. You know, so when you work hard and you get those A's and, you know, you work hard at it, it pays off in the long run.
It does. It does.
You know, my family exemplifies just that. I mean, nothing has been given to us, but we all went out and did what we had to do and grabbed the bull by the horn and made things happen.
Yeah. One thing I will say is, us people of color, we have to endure hardships in our own ways, in our own areas.
That's what made us feel resilient. That's what makes it tough.
Resilience is definitely in our DNA.
Yeah, no doubt.
The only thing that holds us back sometimes is the limitations that society puts on ourselves. And in America, it seems like there are more limitations that we allow to get in our way from being resilient and being excellent than in other areas. Like, you have a situation like this. Just for example, my wife and I talked about, if you buy a home here in America and Americans feel like there's no way you're going to invite your cousins to live with you to help pay for the home so everyone can save money. You only want to have a home for yourself, and everyone else has to have their own pieces. Where you have immigrants that come in from other countries, they'll live in a house 25 people deep so they can save money. The house is getting paid for whoever owns it. They'll be paid, and it's a sharing expense. And the minor inconvenience for a temporary time affords them a greater, abundant payoff at the very end. That is an okay concept, and it's something that's shared worldwide. But in America, we're always wanting to have our own so much, and we're not willing to give up our creature comforts.
But you have to remember, when a lot of these people come from these countries, the first thing that when they step off that boat or step off that plane, the first thing that they have, and I know being one of them, is a plan. There's a plan on how you're going to make it. There's a plan on how you're going to come up. There's a plan what you're going to do first to survive. You must have a plan. That's where they start off with all that. A lot of people, you know, here these days don't have a plan. You ask them, what is your 5-year plan? I don't know. That's what you get. You know, I want to work here for the next 5-10 years. You know, that's what you get. You know, because we were always taught to work for other people. You know, I mean, working is necessary, yes. You know, it says work creates independence. Investments creates wealth. You have to, you know, so you can work, but invest in yourself, invest in your education, and invest in your future. Those are the important things.
Plan to work and work to plan, right? Mm-hmm.
You know, like I said, you know, that's what it's about.
It's also the opportunities afforded to people of the world coming here in the United States are greater than the people who live here and come from here have ever realized. Like it comes from people coming from other countries who sacrifice, who've had to go through hardships that we don't understand, see some of the opportunities here and look at it as just an opportunity. Like I don't think people have, in essence, a written down plan, this step after step after step. They have a motivation. They have an understanding of what they have to do to at least exist and then help to develop on it. Where we see working at a supermarket and we look down on it. Whereas someone else will be like, it's a job, it's a supermarket, you may have a discount to get some food, there's opportunities and benefits. And then you get another job, you're adding another job. And that's just all types of income temporarily. Where the average person will look down at a job like a Walmart or something like that.
You know something, Mo? And you're absolutely right. I totally concur with you. I remember, about a few weeks ago, about 2 months ago, whatever, I did that audit, 4 different supermarkets in North Jersey.
Right.
And I was on the ground level with all of those people, seeing everything that was happening from the back end. Going into the back and talking to the employees and the whole. And they're wonderful, hardworking people. They're wonderful, hardworking people. Each and every single one of them, I applaud them. Because like I said, one thing I've learned, I've made new friends. You know what I'm saying? And they were nothing but wonderful people, and they were from all different walks of life. All different walks of life. Great people. I have nothing but, I I was blessed to be put in that position to meet all of these different people, from managers and the whole 9 yards. So like I said, and they're very hardworking people. And when I was there, part of the team that I was supposed to be a part of never showed up. But I'm like, look, it doesn't matter. There's work that needs to be done here. Let's get it done. And that's just what I told the manager of all of those stores. I said, there's work that needs to be done. We're not going to worry about anybody else. We're going to go get this thing done and get it accomplished. And by the time I walked out of that building, it was done.
Mm-hmm. See, again, that's the mindset. Where you would see the mindset to suggest local people coming from here would be like, if they're not coming to work, I'm not going to do their part. Where a person coming from a different mindset looks at it, that's a job to be done. If I'm the only one here, I guess I'll be doing that job. It doesn't matter about nobody else because nobody else can determine, or they're not the impetus of how I get paid. They're actually getting in the way of me getting paid the way I should be paid. So let me get the job done. So,
and like I said, I enjoy my time, with those people, because at the very end, with COVID and the whole 9 yards, I was getting ready to give this lady a fist bump, and she's like, "No, Adrian, you're not going to give me a fist bump today." And she just grabbed me and said, "I want a hug," and she just grabbed me, unexpectedly. I'm like, "Wow," And that's the type of people that works real hard, and I respect each and every single one of them. They told me, they applied their stories and what's going on in their lives and the whole 9 yards. And that's the only thing. It reminds me of, you remember that show Undercover Boss? It reminded me just of doing the same thing. Yep. When these guys go undercover and you go into a certain situation, I did all of those shop fights.
Yep. Blue collar workers, man. It makes up what America
wonderful
is.
People, man. They're wonderful people. Hard workers. So I won't knock anybody, and the thing about it is, because even while this one lady, she's like, Adrian, you got to pay attention to numbers. Always pay attention to numbers. So I had to just put her in check. You know what I'm saying? I had to put her in check. I had to relax her mind a little bit and put her in check. So the first thing I've actually said to her, I said, do you know what I did before I started helping you out up here? And she says, no, what did you do? I said, I was a dealer in Atlantic City in a high limit pit. Try somebody losing like $250,000. Come back and talk to me about numbers. Hold on for a second.
Well, in the meantime, while he's out and doing whatever he's doing, just to give everybody a little bit of update, recently we just had a situation where an individual by the name of John Devlin here, representing different portions of the city, was elected and placed in a position to represent on the Atlantic City Municipal Utilities Authority. He was recently removed from it as a decision made by the Atlantic City Council, based off of information that suggested he was stepping above and beyond his position. One of the things that were questioned was the persons that were involved in it's an insurance company that was trying to get a contract to MWA. Apparently, information was gotten through a secondary watchdog agency and found out that this agency that was identified was actually heavily politically involved in, heavily involved in politics and contributions throughout the state, and had given hundreds of thousands of contributions to Democrats in upstate New Jersey for the position. And the suggestion was that that was being made, including a phone call that was being made by the mayor of Atlantic City to some of the board members to suggest that this firm should be getting the benefit of the contract that they were looking for. So, and John Devlin had saw that as being a problem. They saw that as being problematic, possibly unethical, might be illegal, what have you. So as decisions going on, and recently a court decision suggested that there was a delay in the proceedings to remove it. Well, that took place, and the same allegiances that seem to have appeared before in support of the mayor's wants and vehicles being used, including council president and some of the party people who were with him in running for position for the mayor, his line partners, they voted in support to remove John Devlin. The majority of people are suggesting that this was cronyism, or an example of politics as usual here in Atlantic City. But the discussion still continues, because if we don't pay attention to the actions that are taking place, things are happening. One of the things that I've said in the past that we have to be concerned about with the ACMUA is that they're the water company. They run the water. We have some of the best water on the East Coast, if not the nation, ranked in the top 5 in the nation. We're still independently owned by the municipality. It's not an independent company. It is now supposedly being targeted by another company called, I think it's called some American Water. American Water is based out of Camden, New Jersey. American Water is said to be owned by a Camden Politico, who just recently moved back into Atlantic City, or moved into Atlantic City by buying a bread company here, which was crazy. The more and more he's making actions, the more he's involved.
Is that Norcross? Is that Norcross?
Yes, Norcross. Exactly. Norcross just brought the
Formica Brothers.
Formica Brothers Bread Company and Formica.
Yeah, right across the street from White House, who actually supplies all of the bread to White House Sub Shop.
Right. So in his backdoor dealings here and there, potentially he could be trying to move to take over the water company, buying the water company. One of the dilemmas that are still brewing now is the reality is that there's legislation that was created some 10 years ago to suggest that any small instances of inability for the water company to be able to manage a major issue gives the rights to somebody who is an independent company outside to come in and to fill the need, to fill the void, and potentially buy out, if not take over the company itself. In doing so, this affords whatever that company is access to billions of dollars in revenue. That water company makes billions of dollars in revenue.
Of course.
Billions.
Everybody's got to drink
one
water.
of the structures now soon to be one of the rarest commodities on the planet. And this man is putting all his working dealings, all this stuff, and under the gas. And this is all hypotheticals, I'm saying, with all the expenditures that are taking place in city government, all the exorbitant salaries that seem to be all of a sudden now amassing part of the budget, agreed upon by the state, saying it's okay. And then a little bit down the line, we find out we don't have the revenue to be able to pay for it. Now we're crying that we're broke. And then the state will say the only thing you can do is sell off your assets. What are the 2 major assets that we've been trying to protect that we know have more value than they're trying to give you? One is Bader Field. Bader Field was just recently talked about at a luncheon that he had, the city had, one of the organizations here had on a daily basis as he's talking about the state of the city. And he talked about developing Bader Field, ongoing discussions about developing Bader Field. How, what, who benefits, we don't know. That's still to be told. But the other one that no one's talking about is if there's a big void in finances, the potential void can be filled by selling the water company. You know how dangerous that could be? Because we won't have the rights to, or the authority to ensure that we have the safest.
You'll watch those water rates go through the roof, folks.
Exactly. Water rates will also affect the sewer. So the sewer companies independent owned
Gonna
all
have
that
to
stuff
raise their
going on.
rates.
Exactly. The
It's a
shipping, all
domino
the
effect.
so that ripple effect is big. So we're talking about this millionaire who's potentially going to make billions off of this situation, and all under the guise of pennies being thrown off to some of these fools in positions of power. So all of these are still suspected to happen. We don't know if it's going to happen, but these are stuff that I'm just saying you have to watch out for. You have to watch out for. So I just wanted to make sure I said this before we close out, because we're on that the time frame now. But I know Adrian had something he wanted to say before.
We're on the precipice of closing out.
Exactly. So, being that we're at that pinnacle time, we're at the end of the show. Adrian, if you have a few things you'd like to add, or you want to announce anything?
Well, other than what we spoke about earlier, I strongly do believe that Atlantic City do need something, to energize this area. I know they had a meeting recently with the Seminole Hard Rock, because Hard Rock Hotel and Casino just purchased in Las Vegas the Mirage. That's with the volcano and the whole 9 yards. So they're going to tear down the volcano in Las Vegas, and they're going to put up a huge guitar to replace. So that's about $2.5 billion that they just spent over there in Vegas. But not only that, they're looking to put up another casino somewhere outside of Atlantic City. They're looking at North Jersey or possibly New York. So the Hard Rock is looking to build a casino somewhere up there.
I don't know if that's going to transpire. Because remember, all the money was.
You're the second person that I called someone from New York today who was a gambler, and I said to her, "You won't have to come all the way to Atlantic City to gamble, because the Hard Rock is looking at putting one in New York City." What's your opinion? She said the exact thing that you said.
Here's the basis of what I'm saying. One of the biggest holes, deep vortexes of money that was created under the guise of politics in the background, all this money being dumped through government to build was called the American Dream. The super mall in the Meadowlands. The second largest mall in America. Built in America.
Mall.
It's called the American Dream. All this money being built there, all the adjacent properties being had. The Xanadu project that was supposed to be a casino in North Jersey. All these things being discussed about that whole great area trying to build up. What has transpired? American Dream is surely soon will be filing bankruptcy, because they have debtors they can't pay, and they're talking about debtors in the billions. So we're talking about something that may not transpire unless Hard Rock can try to arrange something to make it that big. They have a supersized mall that can't be filled. You have areas outside of that, although there's buildable land, and then transportation hubs that are already connected. So you have trains, buses, all those stuff, not too far from an airport and the whole nine. So all those things make sense. It's just the economy right now will not support the idea of some superstructure just for gambling. If it doesn't support entertainment and wide sorts of entertainment like that one, how the hell is gambling going to be able to?
Yeah, that's what they're looking at. Yeah, that's exactly what the executives were talking about. Building one, North Jersey. But the people from Hard Rock also mentioned, like one of the CEOs, that there was a law passed back in 2016 sometime, somewhere about, where you are not allowed to build casinos outside of Atlantic City, especially in New Jersey, because Atlantic City will be the only place. And I remember, hearing that many years ago, that they're not allowed to build, casinos outside of Atlantic City, because it will take away from Atlantic City being the major hub for gambling.
That's why they were offering. That's why the deputy governor, who's over top of DCA, Sheila Oliver, was down on a campaign here in Atlantic City to try to encourage Atlantic City people to support the idea of North Jersey gaming. I remember the discussion because she came to a specific church, Second Baptist, to tell the people how good it would be and how there would be stipends and financial benefits coming from those casinos built in North Jersey to Atlantic City to help. And I was fighting against that idea back then. I remember her coming down there and she looked at me in surprise and said, "Hell no, I'm fighting against it." And still to this day, it's the lie that they'll be able to supply Atlantic City with financial support and stipends to benefit Atlantic City.
That's exactly what he was saying. He's like, "Oh yeah, we could get a whole lot of gamblers from North Jersey and we could shuttle them down to shows down in Atlantic City."
It's the same old shit. When it comes to politics and politics, is a bunch of lies and money. And it's the same old stuff. Don't trust none of them because the truth will always show. And if you follow the money, you will find the crooks.
And so my friend told me, it's like in New York, they're not going to put it over there in Manhattan anyway because a lot of those people are not going to go along with it.
Yeah, plus the mandates that they're over there. Their whole industry, because casinos always have to come together. Gaming always has to come together with food and beverage. Always have to. You really can't have just a gaming hall without food and beverage. And they have laws specific to Manhattan or New York City that seems to be very rare. There's a lot more, like the cost of living, the cost for pay, income-wise, is a lot higher for people working in New York City than anywhere else. We don't know if these gaming venues will be able to afford that. And also, remember the dealers, the professional associations, the dealers that have to be paid a certain level too. And then hotel, totally different. So the cost of doing business in New York City would be 3 and 4 times higher than it would be anywhere outside of this metropolitan area. So it may not be feasible. Now, if it went to like Manahawkin up there in New Jersey side, but right across the water, that might be feasible because it's still New Jersey, but the law suggests that it can't be built.
Yeah, exactly. The law is, they say that law is definitely stopping them right there.
Yeah. But as laws are made by men. Men are easily bought. And laws can fade away like crazy.
That law was based on people voting. So in order, they have to put it back on the ballot as a referendum in order to go back and vote over it again.
Yeah.
And I don't think, and it's going to be very difficult to see that actually passing, considering that the first time it didn't.
Yep. So think of it also. You have a situation now called the Municipal Stability and Municipal Stability and Recovery Act. It's a law suggested that say that no one in the city of Atlantic City or in this area can create anything to get up in a referendum to vote against the government block and the decisions made for Atlantic City. So that means we couldn't create a referendum to defend Atlantic City for North Jersey gaming because the law suggests that we don't have the rights to do so. People don't pay attention. People don't pay attention. But it's that hour, man. I want to just make sure that certain things get talked about before. But
yeah, we covered a good bit of topics tonight, and I'll see my girl Vanessa. I'll be rapping with her tomorrow.
Let's see if she will call.
Yes. Shine some sunlight on her tomorrow, you know what I'm saying? And see what's going on with her, no doubt. But for the most part, like it says, a lot of people are saying that we're coming up out of this COVID. So it's only time will tell, my friend.
That's right.
Everything, this is post-COVID, that's what they're actually labeling it as. So let's find out. So it's like I've always said, be positive and test negative because there ain't over till the fat lady sings. So let's keep it pushing.
That's right, because that fat lady's been singing quite a bit. We just been ignoring her. For those who are paying attention, we thank you again for coming down on the show. We are the New Norm 2.0 with Mo Delgado. This is my boy Adrian. We will come together to bring you information as much as we possibly can to help enlighten you, encourage you, to give you some information that's helpful in your day. The pandemic has caused a lot of hardship to transpire, also giving you a lot of opportunity to start fresh, start new, giving some time for you to focus on things that are important that we've forgotten in our daily hustle and bustle. Whatever it is that we can do to help you out, that's what our intention to do. We thank you again for coming on by. Remember, you're always welcome to come to our, hold on, somebody left a comment. And they said good night.
Yeah, that's my girl Renee, no doubt.
Thank you both for coming on.
Yeah, and Vanessa also, thanks, yeah.
Anybody's on the line, don't forget, you're welcome to go visit our website. Let me get it. Visit the website at www.thenewnorm.club to get some archived information. You might be able to see some old shows and some topics that are very helpful. You also get some information that are specific to your needs. There's a lot of information about entrepreneurs there and some of the highlights of the equipments that they're offering, services they're offering. As conduits to small businesses, we're always beneficial trying to do what we can to help other businesses prosper because it's going to take all of us to help one another for us to get through this thing called life. as Prince said, it's a wonderful thing, right? So as we continue to go on, please, if you see some opportunities here available for you, reach out to us. We're easily attainable. You can reach us at the websites that we have, on the social media, email, phone, what have you. If there's something that you'd like for us to talk about, please reach out through the website. You can get it there. Remember, it's extremely important to pay attention to the world around you as it shifts. Make sure you don't get swept up in the things, because life is just filled like with a box of chocolates. Every day you see something new, you never know what the hell's inside of it. So make sure y'all be blessed, and more importantly, be a blessing to others.
And be safe over the weekend. Monday's a holiday.
Oh, yeah, President's Day.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
enjoy the time off if you got it.
I don't think Trump will be celebrating this time around.
No.
And if he's going to celebrate, it might be his last time celebrating it as a free man.
As a free man, I know. We'll see how much of a bitch. I'm sorry, as a patriot, he will be moving in. But again, we say thank you to everybody else who chimed in. And hopefully next week we'll see each other one more time for the New Norm 2.0. Transitions will be taking place, but we'll see how, as they develop, how it goes. But thanks again, and God bless you all.
Night.